All children are born egocentric. We know this. It's a survival instinct. It's how children get their basic needs met, right? It's all about me, me, me. The world revolves around me, and I can't understand or see the viewpoint of another. So that's how they get their basic needs met. Well, eventually, children begin to think about others besides themselves. This is a good thing. And we call this moral development. And we can support this through demonstrating other esteem. Now, other esteem is a term that you're not going to find in your text, but I think it's a really important term that we talk about and one that you think about. This is something that, I'm hopeful that as you're working with children, you'll think of other ways that you can introduce them to other esteem. Okay, so other esteem is that feeling of empathy for another person or being aware of another person's feelings. And this is something that they learn through interacting with others, right? And your facilitation of it, of developing it. So as teachers, we are often really concerned about a child's self-esteem, and rightly so. We should be. We want them to feel good about themselves, and we are eager to find new ways to help them feel good about themselves and for them to have success. But just as important as self-esteem is the development of other esteem. We want them to feel good about others, and we want them to understand how others are feeling. And we want them to develop this social intelligence, if you will. Now, one of the ways that we can facilitate this is through our coaching in conflict resolution situations. So let's think about the scenario we used last week with Tommy and Jack. And if you'll remember, Tommy was building his tower and Jack came along and kicked it over, and then Tommy was very angry and he went and he kicked Jack right in the shins. And it hurt. Well, consider how we talk to them through this conflict resolution coaching strategy, right? We could say, how do you think Tommy felt when you knocked down his tower, Jack? And Tommy, how do you think Jack felt when you kicked him? Now, this may sound different from what you're used to hearing. Oftentimes we hear or we say, how would you feel, Jack, if Tommy knocked your tower over? Or how would you feel, Tommy, if Jack kicked you in the legs? How would you feel? Now, when we say, how would you feel, we're asking that child to think only about themselves. But when we say, how do you think Tommy felt when you kicked down his tower, Jack? Then in that moment, we're asking Jack to step back and look at how his behavior affected his friend. And the same thing with Tommy. When we say, Tommy, how do you think Jack felt when you kicked him? We're asking Tommy to step back and think about that moment when he was kicking Jack and what it was like for Jack. So, again, it's different from what we are used to saying, but it's really important how just that little bit of a change of the way we talk to children can totally change their perspective of thought and their thinking in regards to the situation and feelings. So if a child can recognize that the other child has feelings, then we can say that he's developing other esteem. Now, social competency is our goal here, correct? Yes. A social competent person is able to empathize with others, and that's what other esteem is. So consider how you can foster other esteem simply with your language and your communication with the children in your classroom.